Look at this picture again for 5 seconds. Now look at the tree in the center. Now look at the grass. Now look at the sky. The question is, did you notice those things as separate objects while staring at the overall picture? Maybe. But it's a fact that you create objects by carving them out of the background. Your mind does this naturally, it has been trained to do this since the beginning of your life here. That is how perception works. The objects you now see do not really exist, however, as separate objects. Only in your mind is this the case. And how you carve, what you carve, and how you react to those carved out images is your choice. No living object is separate. Using this picture as the example, the tree relies on the ground for nourishment. It relies on the sky for light for photosynthesis. Without the ground or the sky, the tree could not exist. And without the gases the tree produces, the sky would not exist. And without the rain the clouds in the sky produce, the grass could not exist, on and on and on ad infinitum. There are no separate objects here. It is one complete and unified system, and that system functions perfectly. Reality is a tangled hierarchy, which means that everything relies on everything else because everything is everything else. Look at this picture of the crowd and remember, reality is not many things joining together to form a whole. Reality is one whole manifesting as many things. Have you ever noticed that you feel comfortable, happy, and more at ease when you're around friends or your family, but feel perhaps slightly anxious and out of place among a group of strangers? What if every other person that seems to be out there on the entire planet was your friend or a member of your family? How would you feel then? That feeling is what accepting non-duality will bring. Now, this may seem simplistic and slightly silly, but it's true. That is precisely why enlightened people appear to be so happy. They do not have to defend the imaginary walls that a false sense of separation, a false identity, duality creates. Have you ever noticed how babies respond to people? They respond to everybody in the same way, with acceptance and curiosity. It's only after the child is taught the concept of separation, the idea of having a separated identity, that the problems begin. Look at this brain. This brain is comprised of zillions of cells. Every cell in the brain has its own identity, yet each one is still part of the whole. They're all brain cells. While the identity seems to exist, it is not separated. If one of the brain cells were to die, the brain would not die, it would continue on. If you die, the human race certainly will not come to an end. The mind that is the human race will continue. The seemingly single cell in the brain is in a non-dual relationship with the entire brain. The brain relies upon the cell for its existence, and the cell relies upon the brain for its existence. However, these two categories or objects are only in your mind. The brain is the cell is the brain. The fact that you see them as two separate objects, label them, and give them names does not change their reality. They are in reciprocal relationship, non-dual, they are one thing. It could be said that you are one cell among billions of cells that form the human race. You rely on them, they rely on you. The fact that you see them as separate objects, label them, and give them names does not change their reality. They are in reciprocal relationship, non-dual, they are one thing. The two categories are only in your mind. You are the human race. The human race is you. It's a tangled hierarchy, but tangled hierarchy is just a phrase that people like quantum physicists sometimes use to explain that everything is really one thing. If you're trying to achieve happiness in life while simultaneously rejecting the most basic fact of life, you will not succeed. So, is one cell all that important? If one of these brain cells were to decide to become sick and were to begin to attack all the neighboring brain cells, what would that be called? Cancer. That would certainly make no sense, as one sick cell would be attempting to harm the very brain that keeps it alive. Cancer cells are insane. If one human being were to attack another, what should we call that? Cancer. That would certainly make no sense, as one sick person would be attempting to harm the very thing that keeps it alive. People who attack other people are insane. People who believe in duality not only experience endless problems, they unknowingly create those seemingly endless problems that really have no basis in fact. They then declare these problems to be real and react to those problems as if they are real. They are not. So what's the real problem? The core problem is that many people reject the simple fact that reality is one whole, manifesting as many things. And no matter who tells them the truth, their religions, their philosophers, their psychologists, their quantum physicists, their biologists, their spiritual ideologies, they prefer to believe in the illusion that they are somehow special and are set completely apart from the rest of the human race, from the world, and from all of life. The enlightened person knows that there is only one reality, one mind, one brain, and by accepting the idea of inclusion versus exclusion, non-duality, that single person becomes the whole. With that, all problems, fear, anxiety, and even the belief in death itself disappear.